This news update is brought to you by...
Hi, I'm Red Plastic Bag. Anyone who knows me knows I don't like cold. Sunshine reigns in my country. I love it.
Get your sun power.
This is the Noon Barbados Today update for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2014. I'm Dawn Paris. The Barbados Workers' Union is at this hour holding talks with the National Conservation Commission to discuss pending layoffs, among other issues. Retrenchments at the statutory board were reportedly expected to begin last week, but were delayed to facilitate negotiations. The discussions started just after 10 this morning. Back in February, BWU General Secretary Sir Roy Trotman had raised concerns about the process being used by the NCC to determine which workers would be placed on the red line. The 50-year-old U.S. economic embargo hits Cubans living in Barbados. Cuban Ambassador Lizette Perez tells Barbados Today PriceSmart has banned the sale of goods to the embassy and even to Cuban nationals. She revealed that last January, the embassy received an official letter from Terry Mahon, the manager of the local arm of the U.S. subsidiary, indicating the company could not transact business with Cuban citizens in keeping with U.S. law. This follows moves by Scotiabank in 2012, which barred Cubans from conducting financial transactions between Bridgetown and Havana. Ambassador Perez says Cubans continue to unfairly suffer under the unjust U.S. embargo.
The effect of the blockade is still there, and it's very hard for our people. And you say every day you are surprised because with different bank or institution can trade or do business with Cuba.
An A grade for the departing head of the Caribbean Examinations Council, Dr. Didicus Jules. Top educational officials and his colleagues celebrated his achievements at the organization over the past 60 years at a special farewell luncheon in his honor yesterday. Dr. Jules is particularly credited for securing a new headquarters for the regional examining body, as well as transforming CXC into an IT intelligent organization. CXC Chairman Professor Nigel Harris described Dr. Jules as a revolutionary leader.
How someone could have covered that much ground in a short 6 years is really amazing, and it tests to this man's vision and energy.
For his part, Dr. Jules says CXC is a house on a solid foundation. He, however, expressed disappointment that there remains a high level of conservatism in education across the Caribbean, pointing to the reluctance of some countries to adopt the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment Program. Dr. Jules warned the region is in danger of being left behind, while some international countries are showing interest in adopting the examination, the CPEA.
While some countries are still doubtful about it, we have been having discussions with the Kingdom of Lesotho, and they are interested in partnering with us. So very likely the CPE, which is our trademark as the International Primary Assessment, might be going to Africa.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Hi, I'm Red Plastic Bag. Anyone who knows me knows I don't like cold. Sunshine reigns in my country. I love it.
Get your sun power.
On the regional scene, next Monday is D-Day for Antigua and Barbuda. That's when the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court will hand down its ruling on two matters said to be holding up general elections. The Court of Appeal will determine whether the electoral list generated last year is lawful and can be used for the upcoming poll. The court will also decide whether the Boundaries Commission was fair in its report after the opposition Antigua Labour Party charged that proposed changes were biased and unfavorable to the party's political candidates. On the international front, as the relentless search for Malaysian Flight 370 continues, authorities in Australia are examining material washed ashore to determine if it's related to the ill-fated jet. The debris was found by a member of the public near the town of Augusta, that's 190 miles south of Perth. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau confirms it's examining photographs to determine whether further physical analysis is required and if there's any relevance to the search of the missing flight. The images have also been sent to authorities in Malaysia. Flight 370 disappeared in March, carrying 239 passengers from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. And that's where we end the noon update. Join us again at 6 this evening. Until then, log on to www.barbadostoday.bb, subscribe to our e-paper, and like us on Facebook to get more news and sports. I'm Dawn Paris.
Health Today is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance Insurance, agent represented by BGI Insurance Limited.
In this edition of Health Today, we find out that every day, one person suffers a stroke and a heart attack, and how what we eat is driving the problem.
As a day passed, it pretty much means in Barbados, there's one person who had a stroke and one person who had a heart attack. So it really kind of gives you that sort of reality check in terms of how bad the situation is here. But another piece of information coming out from our ongoing collection are the risk factors. And this is where now we link it to the individual. And the main risk factors coming out are hypertension, obesity, and diabetes for both heart attack as well as stroke.
Each year, thousands of Barbadians are losing their good health and even life to a handful of lifestyle diseases. Chronic non-communicable diseases, commonly known as NCDs, heart disease, strokes, cancers, diabetes, and respiratory diseases. In fact, approximately 60% of the government's health budget is spent on treating these preventable diseases. This worrying problem is under the watchful eye of the Chronic Disease Research Center, which has been conducting landmark studies towards a healthier Barbados. A special arm of the CRDC is the Barbados National Registry for Chronic Non-Communicable Diseases, which collects critical data on the incidence, mortality, and survival rates in 3 registries: diabetes, one for strokes, and the other for cancer.
We collect information for action. It's not information to just sit on a shelf and just to kind of collect dust, but we really want to feedback to our major stakeholders. Of course, the Ministry of Health is a main one, and the policy makers. So through our annual reports, we feedback to them. And coming out from there, we've seen several improvements.
Tanya Martelli is a registrar of the BNR, and she tells Health Today their most recent annual report released in 2010 shows the level of strokes and heart attacks are worrying.
We recorded 584 strokes and 347 heart attacks in just the year 2010. And that works out to be over 1 stroke a day and about one heart attack a day. So as a day passed, it pretty much means in Barbados, there's one person who had a stroke and one person who had a heart attack. So it really kind of gives you that sort of reality check in terms of how bad the situation is here.
The data also points to some clear risk factors: hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. And those in turn are linked to things like exercise and even more so our diet. 2 well-hidden culprits: sugar and salt. Take a look at common items found in any Barbadian cupboard, and the BNR expert will tell you we are way over our sugar limit. The recommended daily intake is 6 teaspoons of sugar.
We have actually measured out the amount of sugar contained inside the container. And we have it in grams, and then we also have it in, some of them is in teaspoons, but some of them is actually in tablespoons. So for those persons who love their lemon, lime, and bitters, you can see we're already at almost 5 tablespoons alone of sugar. Not teaspoons, but tablespoons. If we look at our granola, something that person doesn't think, oh, this is healthy and I'm going to eat something healthy, I'm going to just stick a granola along the way, 4 teaspoons of sugar by the time you consume that. So you're already approaching your limit of 6 teaspoons. Add to that, some fruit punch from Pine Hill Dairy, which is like 4.4 tablespoons. You've already exceeded your daily limit. So it's no surprise that the majority of Barbadians are exceeding their limit of sugar. And even in terms of children, it's such a convenient way to give them a packed juice to carry to school. When they come home, they want juice again. Maybe a little later on in the night, they want juice again. And there's some children who are consuming 3 to 4 box juices a day. And then we wonder why they're so hyperactive, why they're unable to concentrate, at school, is that they're having very high levels of blood sugar because of the amount of sugar that they're consuming. Plus, another one, considered a nice healthy drink for persons, 3.2 tablespoons of sugar. Again, lots and lots of sugar that we are consuming. And Powerade, another one, lots of athletes think, okay, it's very good, let me use this to rehydrate. 4 tablespoons of sugar just by drinking 1 bottle. And it actually has in 2.4 servings. It's not just 1 serving. This bottle alone is 2.4 servings. So really and truthfully, should not be using the whole bottle at one time.
On top of our high sugar intake, we add salt. The daily recommended intake for salt is much lower, 1 teaspoon a day.
Here you can see many of the things that we cook with. So our OXO cubes up there have 1.83 grams of salt. We have our Maggi. Now you could imagine there's some people who actually cook with some of OXO, a cube of OXO, to get the vegetable flavor, and then one of the chicken flavor as well. So they may adding a Maggi cube to it. In addition to that, they're adding ketchup, which has in quite a bit of salt, and then plus salt, maybe a little salt meat, and you start to see there's just so much salt in just the rice and peas alone, and the chicken, and that's just one dish. We haven't factored in breakfast, where now you have your Eclipse biscuits, and then you add to that corned beef for lunch and meat, which are quick and easily meals that you can prepare. Again, you can see lots of salt inside of it, more than a teaspoon in there. And so this is a problem that we are facing in Barbados, where persons are consuming really high amounts of sugar and salt.
Ms. Martelli says Barbadians don't need to rush to their cupboards to throw out these foods. Rather, she advises families to read labels and make gradual changes to reduce your salt and sugar intake.
Can I reduce the amount of this that I'm giving, my family, or I'm eating? Can I just use the OXO cube instead of the OXO and the Maggi and the ketchup and the table salt and the salt meat? Just kind of change your behavior a bit. The noodle soup, which is a very popular thing, quick and easy, there's so much salt inside of that. How about having it without the packaging, which is what kind of has in, all the salt, and just add some nutritious vegetables, to that. This will kind of reduce the amount of salt that you're taking.
In addition, try this week's health tips.
Swap sugar for fruit. Drink more water. Reduce processed foods in your diet and just eat natural. Avoid adding salt to foods at the table. If you need to use salt while cooking, add it when the meal is completed.